Hi, I am Larry Hillman, and you can find more information about me at my website, LarryHillmanMinistries.com. You can email me at LarryHillmanMinistries@yahoo.com, or check out more of these videos on my YouTube channel, Larry Hillman Ministries. I have some books. This first one is how to do a children's service on Sunday morning, come from the beginning all the way to the end, everything you'll need. The next book is about how to recruit, train, and retain your volunteers. The next book is my experience in the ministry. We're told that we can learn by our experience, but you can also learn by someone else's. And so I share some things that worked and some things that didn't work. The next book over is Leading in Hard Times, Principles We Learned from Nehemiah on Leadership. And the last book over on the end is Champ. It's a story about a little dog who was rescued just like Jesus rescues you and I. Now, right now we're going to look at effective strategies for discipline, crowd control, and angry parents. Now, first off, the children cannot do what you haven't been taught. You need to have some rules that the children understand. Very simple, 3 to 5 of them. Such things as keep your hand and feet to yourself. When someone up top front is talking, you are listening. Things of that nature. But the rules need to be positive. Don't say, don't talk, don't this, don't that. We're taught that children don't even process a negative until they get like in the 3rd grade. So when you say don't talk, all they hear is talk. So say, please listen, or please pay attention. The rules need to be positive. The rules need to be consistent. That means they're the same for everyone and they're the same every week. Right? That takes discipline on the leader's part to be consistent. So be consistent with those rules, and then they should be reinforced. When you have a consequence for obeying the rules and a consequence for not obeying the rules. Right? And don't tell them you're going to do something that you cannot do. Make sure whatever you tell them you're going to do is something you can follow through with. I've heard people say, when I was in the school system, if you don't do this, you won't be going to PE. Well, you can't do that. It's a law that they have to go to PE, and the kids know that. So make sure it's something, your reinforcement is something that you can follow through with. And then the pace, the energy, and the innovation of your class. If you want to get the kids to behave, you have to give them something to take the place of the behavior they're exhibiting. You have to give them a reason to listen. So don't go too fast with your lesson. Speak so fast that nobody wants what you're saying and the kids can't understand you. Right? But at the same time, don't go so slow that they get bored. Right? Be aware of that. Don't speak too high with your voice, and don't speak too low with your voice. Right? Change what you're doing on that stage often. Children have about 1 minute of attention for every year of their age. So a 5-year-old or 6-year-old has 5 or 6 minutes of attention. So a 30-minute video or a 30-minute skit is going to be difficult for them to follow along. And then speak loudly. Make sure they can hear you. All right? Hey, how you doing out there? I'm so glad you're here today. Let's get going. Be excited about what you're doing. Use movement. All right? Don't just stand there and never move, but walk back and forth on the stage. Use your arms, all right? And then you can have the kids moving around at times where they're doing art project or they're going to small groups, and it can be what we call controlled chaos. It doesn't have to be absolutely silent every second of your meeting, but it is controlled, and you know what's going on with it. Look at things from a different angle. We do the same thing week after week, and sometimes we get in a rut. I know of a race car driver who went to a track in another state, and they kind of laughed at him when he got there because he didn't have the latest technology on his car, and they knew their engines would be much faster than what he was running, and yet he won the race. And the reason he won the race is that they were not at that time concerned with the turns. How do you get through the corners? Well, there are 4 turns, only 2 straightaways. So if I can go faster in the 4 and they only go faster in 2, then I'm going to win. And that's what he did. He was almost as fast as them on the straightaway, but much faster through the turn. He looked at it from a different angle. Look at your class and what you're doing from a different angle, a different perspective. And then change up the order of the service once in a while. You don't always have to do the singing first and then do an object lesson and a story and a game and do that same order. Swap it up once in a while. And don't forget to use object lessons. They are the absolute best at getting a kid's attention because they're anticipating what might happen, and it keeps them paying attention. And then any new technology that you can get a hold of with your sound system and everything of that nature, be willing to use the new stuff that's out there because the kids certainly see it everywhere else. So be willing to use it. And then always have your eyes wide open, all right? Head them off at the pass, it says here. That's being proactive instead of reacting. When you see little Jimmy and Johnny over there starting to talk more than they should, don't wait until it gets so loud or it becomes a problem that somebody has to intervene. Intervene ahead of time. All right? Do something when you see that it's beginning to happen. And then drop them a pork chop. I heard a pastor say that his grandfather back in the late 1800s was a pastor, and at that time in the church they belonged to, any ribbons or bows in the ladies' hair was sinful. So when the ladies would answer the call to come up for salvation, they actually had a deacon in the church that had a string with a pair of scissors tied to it that was attached to his belt. And if that lady had a bow or ribbon in her hair, when she went down front to pray, he took those scissors and cut it out of her hair. Now, you can imagine they didn't have a whole lot of ladies going forward to answer the altar call. Well, this man's grandfather said, I always felt like I ought to use the pork chop theory. And that is, if you see an old dog with a bone and you try to take it from him, he's going to fight you. But if you drop down a fresh, juicy pork chop, he'll drop that old bone and go after that pork chop. So you give the kids something that is more exciting and something that they would rather listen to up there on the stage than what's going on around them, right? Now, next thing you have to do, intervention strategies. When you see that Johnny and Billy or whoever, Sally and Sarah or Makisha, whoever is talking or starting to tap somebody's chair or doing something, there's some things you can do about it without calling attention to you and to what's going on. One of those is your voice level. When you're talking, and Bobby was walking down the street, and suddenly he heard a noise. You see, when you lower that voice level, they all look to see what you're talking about. Or when you raise your voice level, and as he was listening, boom, a firecracker went off. Do something to keep their attention with your voice level. Proximity control. I set my kids up. If I have 30 kids there, I'll have the front row, I'll have 15 and 15. I'm not going to have 5 and 5 and 5 on this side and 5, 5, 5 over here because that third row, they're 3 rows away from me. If I just have 2 rows, they're much closer. And the closer I can get to them, the more they're going to notice me, and it's going to cause their behavior to subside. So when they're talking and making noise or something's happening over there, I can just walk over there and continue doing what I'm doing, but just kind of get eyeball to eyeball with them, get their, to get their attention. And it's amazing how it stops that behavior. And then have your helper to intervene. Now, you don't want to do this. I had a helper a while back, and you got to train your helpers to let them know what you want. But some kids were talking, so I just paused for a moment. Well, whenever and got quiet, because that pausing and doing that, being quiet, that just is. They notice that. They're going to say, "What's happening? What's going on?" And they're going to stop and look. So I paused, and when I did, one of my helpers said out loud, said, "All right, everybody, be quiet." So I had to tell her afterward, that was not what I wanted you to do. You drew attention to the problem. Where do you think everyone was looking when she said that? They were looking right at her. They weren't looking at me. They weren't looking at the leader who was teaching on the stage. So if your helper's going to intervene, I always teach my helpers, get as low as you can so that you're not blocking the other kids and they're not all seeing you, and quietly walk over to where the kids are. If you can, just sit next to them or get behind them. Just say, excuse me, you got to be quiet. Just something as simple as that. Right? Now, if it continues, we'll go on with that. That's whenever you may have to remove them from the service, but we'll cover that. The removal defined means, first off, change their seat. Move them someplace else in the room. All right, these two boys are talking. All right, one of you, I'm going to move on down here. Okay, come follow me, and you just put him at the other end. Usually, 9 times out of 10, that'll solve your issue. If it doesn't solve the issue, then give them a seat that's in the back of the room. Right? Now, you cannot put them outside the classroom or in a room or something where you can't see them. You must have eyes on them at all times. You don't want to put a child someplace by themselves. I actually know of situations where people left, put a child in a large closet, and hours later remembered the kid was still sitting in the closet. People have set children outside the room in the hallway and go out there and the kids got up and walked off into some other part of the building. So you must keep them in a place where you can have eyes on them at all time, but you can isolate them to the back of the room or to the side of the room or something. And then finally, they may need a break from class. You might actually have to talk to the parents and say, we need you to keep them with you next Sunday. And to give them, like I said, a break from the class. And then when you give them that break from the class, you're going to have a parent meeting. And you need to make sure that meeting, first off, is private. Don't do it right there in the middle of the class with everybody else walking around, the other kids, the other parents and everything. That's not how you do it. Make it private. And then try to be positive. Say something nice about their child. Bobby's over there talking the whole time and you're frustrated. And you don't want to walk up to the parent and say, that kid just won't shut up. That's the last thing you want to do. You want to always say, my Bobby has a great vocabulary. Start off that way. Get them on your side a little bit. Do the sandwich. And by that, I mean tell them something positive about Sally, something that needs corrected, and then some more positive. Right? Many times these parents, that's all they hear from school is the negative things that happen to their children. And they're already on the defense because remember, you're talking about the most precious thing in the world to them, their precious little baby. And so you cannot go into it in a negative manner. You've got to go into it in a positive manner and ask them if they would help you. Bobby is sitting in class and he keeps wanting to talk to the children next to him all the time. Do you have any suggestions on how I can get his attention or what we can do? So be positive about it and then ask them if they could pray because we want the best for the child and we want to come along beside that parents to help parent the child. So ask them if you could pray for them. Now, sometimes no matter how well the meeting goes and no matter you can do everything perfect, you end up with an angry parent. And I have had my share of angry parents, believe me. And so here are just a few things that you can do when you have that parent who's angry. First off, just listen to them. Just stand there and let them say what they need to say. Listen to them. And secondly, when you respond to them, talk softly in a soft voice. Proverbs says a soft answer turns away wrath. And many times they'll immediately recognize the difference in the way you're talking and the way they were talking. And that soft answer will help to calm them down. And then paraphrase. And by paraphrase, I mean they say, I'm angry because Johnny tells me you didn't give him any candy. And my response is, so you're upset that Johnny didn't get any candy. I say the same thing back to them almost. And what it does is it takes them out of emotion and puts them into logic. They have to process what you said and decide if they agree with you or not. Well, yeah, I'm angry he didn't get any candy. Did Johnny tell you why he didn't get any candy? Did Johnny tell you that I asked him to do something and he told me no, he wasn't going to do it? Did he tell you that I told him if you don't do that, you won't get the candy? And he said, then I don't want any candy. You know, paraphrase back to them the things that they are saying to you. And then don't take it personally. They're not mad at you. They're just frustrated. First off, they've probably been working with this kid for who knows how long to get over this exact problem. Every teacher they've had has had this problem with them. They don't know what to do. They've tried, they're at their wits' end with this kid, and now you're telling them again, and they're just frustrated and upset. They're not taking it out personally on you. So don't take it personal, because when you take it personally, then that's when you're going to respond in anger and in the wrong way. And in number 5 over there, have a witness. When you get an angry parent, have a witness. Ask somebody to step over there with you, someone that you can trust, someone that you can ask later, can tell what happened, and that can be there in the meeting, because you want to make sure that this parent doesn't go to someone else and tell them something that didn't happen. And that, of course, in our day and age, maybe in all days and ages, I don't know, but that does happen. So have a witness present. Now, document and report everything. Right? First off, you should have a service report every week that you write down how many kids were there, what the story was, any visitors, any incidents that might have happened during the time where you may have had to, not your everyday just correcting a child, but a major correction. And then, of course, if there was an accident, you should have an accident report that you fill out, and it goes to the parent, and it goes to the people over you, whoever your supervisors are. Document that parent meeting, even if it's a nice one. Document it. Keep it, because you don't want them coming back later saying, well, you never told me, or I didn't know it was this bad. You can pull out your documentation and say, look, I met with you here. And that parent meeting, on that documentation, you'll have what was said and what was agreed upon. If there was a plan that was made, document that meeting. And then if they get angry or upset with you, document that as well. And have your witness fill out an angry parent form as well. And they can put on there what they saw, what they heard, and all that was going on during that time. Now again, those are hopefully some things that will help you with crowd control. 90% of it will be alleviated if the teacher up front does something that will keep their attention. Loud, moving, object lessons, changing from one thing to another, proximity control, pausing with your voice, getting soft with your voice, getting loud with your voice, training your helpers to intervene at the right time. So hopefully those things will be able to help you. Again, I am Larry Hillman. God bless.